Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host JT, and if this is your first time watching my channel, thank you and welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and to hit the little notification bell so you know what's going on and when new videos are posted. So today I have a very special guest that I'm super excited to introduce to you. He is known for his adventures. He is a husband, a father, a songwriter, and a Dove-nominated recording artist. Hello, Aaron Boyd.
Hey, bro.
We all have a story, and I'm excited to learn more about yours. Can you share a little bit about yourself?
I've lived in East Belfast my entire life. I'm a Northern Ireland guy through and through. Love it. Do not want to go anywhere else in the world. I'll travel everywhere, no sweat. But I just love this little green dot. It's just a phenomenal place. And we've seen so much healing and just growth since 1997, 98, whenever Northern Ireland we all voted and we signed a peace agreement and the country all calmed down and everyone stopped murdering each other. But before that, this place genuinely was crazy and brought up in a great Christian loving family home, have the best parents on the planet. They're still here, kicking away. Wesley and Sadie, they still same house they've lived in their entire lives, basically, and just great people. And
That's awesome.
But the penny never dropped for me. It was like I did the lip service thing, went to Sunday, kept my parents happy, lived a bit of a double life at the same time. Throughout the week, it's easy to get into certain things in Northern Ireland if you're, in certain circles. And then ended up just getting saved one Sunday night in a small double wide out the back of a farmer's house. I went to this youth camp and seen this guy dancing during the summer one time, and I just thought this was hilarious because my old church drums were of the devil because they created tribal drum beats which invoked evil spirits. So that's kind of what they said, And then lo and behold, I'm at this youth thing, and here's this guy just dancing away at the front. So I just burst out laughing, and afterwards went up to him and asked him the name of his church. And he told me the name of his church, River of Life Fellowship Church in Dungannon. And I was like, great, brilliant, whatever. So the summer went by, school started, and at this point, as long as I went to church, it would keep my parents happy. So this Sunday I had two friends, Adam Bell, still do, lives literally like a stone's throw away from here, and a girl called Hazel Scott, big ginger hair, we called her the Ginge, big shout out to the Ginge. Those two guys were saved, and I was, they poured loads into my life, and they were just great. Took me at all my best and all my worst, all that stuff. And we ended up in this small town looking for this church. Ended up, couldn't find it. I rapped this door because it said the lifeboat mission, right? Rapped the door, and this Scottish couple came to the door, and they were like, hello, young Mal, how you doing there? And I was like, how you doing? Listen, I'll tell you what it is. This is really random. I'm looking for the River of Life Fellowship Church. And they were like, listen, funny enough, you should say that. We've just been phoned and invited to this church and given directions. Would you like the directions? Right? Now, looking back, I'm kind of like, I feel like Mr. God had something on the agenda that night. That was like brilliant. So they gave me the directions and they were like, all right, pal, have at it there. Have a good night. So I jumped into the car with my two mates and we bombed down this road way out in the middle of nowhere. And we turn into this like farm. From memory, it's a farm anyway. And out the back was this big double wide. And we walked in awkwardly. You kind of like walk in like halfway, the door's like here. So you walk in. Lo and behold, there's this guy then still dancing away, just loving life. And I sat down and literally loads happened that night. But basically a girl got up and shared and she was just like, there's people that are here for shows. There's this, and this. It's your time. And she said a load more stuff as well. And I remember just thinking, this is it. This is all actually real. And on the way home, pulled over at the side of the motorway, the highway, bounced out in the hard shoulder, and my two friends were there, and I was just like, I need to give my life to the Lord, and I just gave my life to the Lord that night, and that was it. No turning back, just went for it. And the first ever Bible verse really that I meditated on was Colossians 3:3. And it says, "For you died and your life is now hidden with Christ in God." And I was never academic. I always joke and I always say the two tests that I passed were my driving test and my skydiving tests, right? I can pull a parachute and not die.
That's awesome.
It, right? Everything else, right? In my religious studies, I got an N, a not graded. That's how bad it was, right? That's how bad I was. And my school teachers were brilliant. And my last 2 years at school, we never really worried about the schoolwork. It was just go and do the things that you love to do. So I invested in music and acting and drama, mountaineering, climbing, all of that stuff. That's what I poured my life into my last 2 years at school, and I had an absolute blast. So then when I left school, I had no idea of going to college or university. I did not want. All I wanted to do was to go climbing, go climb mountains, and be in the outdoors, go kayaking. The way I kind of try to look at my life is, I've got all these different things that I love to do, and it's not like I don't even see this idea of like a 9 to 5 kind of thing, because it's sort of, it's not saying it's right or wrong. It's just, it's not me. It was them. And it's not kind of the way we as a family have kind of worked it into our worlds. But I love playing golf, but I'm awful at it, right? I love playing tennis, but again, I'm awful at it. I love leading worship. I love writing songs. I love the outdoors. I love all of these kinds of things. And that's it. And then on top of that, then it's like, okay, steward what you have really, really well. Finances, what small finances do I have? Where does that come from? How do I steward that well? How do I invest in that? Be a lifelong learner in growing all of those things. And that's all I do. I'm trying not compartmentalize, but let everything just saturate into everything. Not have something in a hierarchy, but just have everything like more core eking out into all of aspects of my life.
I know a lot of people know you for your hit song, but how do you go from working in an outdoor store to your musical career?
When I got saved, like it was like something was lit on the inside, right? That whole deep cries out the deep idea, like there was something was just like, oh, I get this. I understand what this is. And there has never been a plan to make this a job. Like never. I was never ever all I wanted to ever do was work a bit of a job, have a bit of money, be able to run around, travel, climb, do all of that kind of stuff. Yes. And then whenever I got saved in, I've got this worship thing where it's like I passionately love the Lord in the middle of all of that at the same time. And that was it. So that's when I'm kind of leading worship, then I get asked to do a Youth for Christ thing when I'm about 22. Well, actually, maybe a bit earlier than that, probably about 22, actually, probably about 22 years old. I get asked to lead at this thing called Manifest in the centre of Belfast. Back then, it was 1,500 kids in the Ulster Hall, great venue. And people all came together, all different churches, and it was just worship and the word. And it was brilliant. First Saturday of every month. And so I led worship at that for 5 years. And it's where I really grew into just this slightly, a slightly bigger room of people. And then really it all started to tip when this whole God of this city experience happened. I didn't go looking for it. It was not something that was ever planned. Being a full-time worship leader didn't exist. And over here, you have a few people that could do it. Rob and Mark, a couple of other people back in Keith and Kristen Getty. There's people like that have written songs or whatever. But in terms of like your, 4 or 5 days a week in a church as a worship pastor, that didn't exist. That was not here, and it is still not really, really here. So this idea of being a full-time worship leader just was, never on the cards. It was never on the cards. It was, I love the Lord. You serve in your church. That's it.
The song God of the City has literally been sung around the world as a church anthem. Can you tell us how the song was written? Because to me, this story is so fascinating, how God would use you in one of the strangest places in the world to write this song.
My missions pastors in church came and they were just like, Boydo, do you want to go on a mission trip, Southeast Asia? I was like, didn't even really know what a mission trip was. I was like, yeah, let's do this, right? No sweat. So I speak to some of the guys, and it's like, let's go to Thailand, and we're going to jump in with local churches. We are going to play wherever they get us to play. There's a 24-hour worship thing. There's a thing called Patia Praise. We did not create this. This is other people have faithfully served in the middle of this for a long time and have done the hard work of digging soil. Do you know what I mean? Like really just being there and pioneering this whole thing. So I will never, ever take any of that for granted, for sure. And so we end up going to Bangkok. It's my first time probably really being like outside of Europe in a completely different culture. You know what I mean? I'd been away, like obviously, you know, in Spain and France and all that kind of stuff, but I'd never been to somewhere where, you know, first thing you see when we got off in the Bangkok airport was this huge, big, crazy Buddha statue thing. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, right, okay, this is definitely not East Belfast right now. So, we were in Bangkok for a few days and got to see the red light district in that. Kind of just try and plug you in, fill you in on everything of what's going on. Lots of learning in the process. Yeah. And then we end up going to Pattaya, Pattaya. It's a small coastal town, no less than 30,000 people. No less than 30,000 females that are aged 18 and above that are in prostitution. So the entire fabric and DNA and culture of that town, seaside town, is prostitution, exploitation, modern day slavery. It exists, and I'd never seen that before. You know, the place is broken up into different SOIs, SOI, and that's just a different district. So if you want one thing, you go here. If you want transgender, you go here. If you want male homosexual, you go here. If you want, you know, for whatever, there's just different areas. And, you know, being from Belfast, you'd seen a lot in the Troubles, but I'd never seen this before. I'd never seen guys with menus selling certain things and then you go and buy a person. And I was like, this is weird and wrong, just flat out wrong. And then it's only subsequently when you dig in and you understand the process of how those girls and those older women end up in the middle of all of this, you realize that it's not like this choice when they're 21 years old and they, you know, they're like, I'm going to do this. It goes right the way back to, in lots of scenarios, things like the virginity trade, where they're sold in when they're 5 and 6 years old, and then they're abused their entire lives. And then at this point, they are damaged goods, and they're here in this moment. And so this is a very steep learning curve, you know, just being bombarded with all of this stuff.
For you guys being missionaries and Christian singers, and all of a sudden you're thrown into this city full of just terrible things and sin and sad things going on there too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then trying to reconcile it, because then you start to ask all these questions, and that's ultimately where this song came from. You know, saying my buddy's birthday is today, PDK, I always roomed with him, and we'd be having these conversations, and we'd be like, where is God in the middle of all of this? Like, whose responsibility is this? Yeah. Like, what the heck is going on here? And then, you know, they hold the king in such high esteem, and we're like, what kind of king lets this go on in their kingdom? Do you know what I mean? So we're having all of these conversations in the room, and with 2 nights off in Pattaya, and you know, I always say there's only so many times. Like every time we would stop in the tuk-tuk, the wee 3-wheel, you know, motorbike things, we'd pay the guy just a little bit extra money, and we'd get them to the pop wheelies. So every time they stopped, they'd be like, and you'd be flying down the street, you know. But there's only so many times that happens, and you start to get bored of it. And we said our missions pastor, Hugh, we're like, Hugh, any chance that you can get somewhere else for us to play? And he spoke to someone who knew someone who knew someone else, and lo and behold, the Climax Bar in the middle of Walking Street, the main pedestrian area, was the venue for a 2-hour worship set.
You guys are playing in the heart of the city of where this is all going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They bleach the streets, and also it's literally just like it's pure carnage. It really is. Yeah. Now, probably the joys of Lost in Translation, the bar owner and all of those bars, when I say the word brothel, we're not thinking old school, you know, honky-tonk piano in the corner of the room or whatever, right? all of those bars, by definition, are all brothels. There are places where there are people for sale, right? And you would buy someone, and then you would go to a hotel. When you go to hotels, you have to check in your prostitute. There's a system for it, right? It's insane, right? Absolutely insane. So my missions team, I'm a missions pastor, and we just descended on that. The joys of being lost in translation. The bar owner didn't understand exactly who we were. I think all she knew was there was an Irish band that were going to play for free, and they had a strong fan base, i.e. it was our mission team. So that was it. Stage was set. We just jumped on. I knew about 4 songs, but Raven Charismatics can make those 4 songs last for 2 hours. So basically, by the end of the first hour, I just began to sing out. Call it being prophetic, call it whatever you want. I just started to sing, "You're the God of this city, King of these people, greater things have yet to come." And basically sang that song in the middle of it. Had all these lines just written down. And afterwards, didn't really think much of it. Just jotted all this stuff down. Thought probably should write that down. Wrote it down. Came back to Belfast and that monthly event that we were leading worship at.
Yeah.
Pulled the song together, topped and tailed it. We know, well, here's the intro, here's this. We'll do the bridge a couple of times. Sang it. That was it. Didn't think that much of it. Had that song. Had a couple of other songs as well. And Chris Tomlin then ended up being in Belfast one time. We ended up being able to play before him a couple of times before. And his guitar player, Daniel, was running around outside, and he heard the song, and it just momentarily spoke into where they were in life. With the whole Passion Conference in Louis Giglio, will we take us to the world, to the nations? And then here's Mr. God going, greater things have yet to come, greater things in your city. You're the God of this city, King of these people. Done. That was it. So, and that was the start of doors just beginning to open. But honestly, at that moment, when the doors began to open, my family, we made the commitment, and with a couple of other friends as well, it was like, anything that we can do in our lives, we want to help people meet Jesus, and we want to help a bunch of kids across the world that do not have a voice. And in everything, that's the thread that goes through. You can look at my life. You're all this, you're this, you do this, you build board games, you go climbing, you do this, whatever. And in that sense, it could look like I'm all over the place. But in terms of being stable, in terms of being laser focused on certain things, it's this. And you can look back, and I can look back at the last 10, 15 years of my life, and it has been a flat, even arrow where laser beam focus on that's what we want to do. Help people meet Jesus and help kids across the world.
I know life has a way of throwing curveballs at all of us. One of the curveballs that it's thrown at your family is through family health issues. Can you speak about your daughter Lily's story?
She's 14, was born with cystic fibrosis. She's our first kid, and then all of a sudden, it's like, kids start to lose a bit of weight, all that stuff, and then they normally start putting us back on again. She was actually the youngest diagnosed baby in Northern Ireland. It was literally a couple of weeks, if even. It was really quick because our midwife at the time, she had been in the process of diagnosing another kid. And so she noticed the exact same sort of symptoms. And so that triggered a really quick response. So she was super, super young when she was diagnosed, which is great because it let us get on top of it very, very quickly.
Exactly.
But that's been a part of that journey of just going, in the same. It's okay to ask Mr. God loads of questions. It always is. He loves it. It ends up, the only way to then get your answers is to continually keep digging into the Word and finding out, who we are in Christ and what does that look like. And so that's always been the journey in our life. And my natural response as a worshiper is I end up writing songs in moments. And so there's been a couple of songs that have been through the kind of the process and the journey of life. And probably if you look back, if you were to go on all the different albums and kind of look back and then look at all the different adventures and stuff that had been going on all at the same time, it would be interesting to kind of see where that happened. So one of the first songs that I wrote, after finding out about Lily was a song called Each Day. And I wrote it down the bottom of my street. There's a nice park, and I was pushing her in the pram and the stroller around the park. And I was just having this conversation with the Lord where it was like, Lord, I know my relationship with you has to be built on something so much stronger than my emotional state at any given moment. Because at that moment, I felt completely numb. I didn't know what I believed, but I needed to understand that he is still there. And I needed this. So that's why it was like each day in the morning sun, each time in the evening moon, in the rain or whatever, you never leave me alone, even when storms flood my way. So there's that idea that he's constantly present. He's constantly there, even though 1 minute you're like, yes, Lord, I'm going to save the world. And then other times you're like, I don't even feel like there is a God right now. Do you know those kinds of things?
Exactly.
So he's still the same, right? So that's that. Then there's like Jesus healer, be lifted up. We're like, okay, Lord, come on, let's see it. Let's see it. And then it's like a Jericho moment where it was like,
which is your new album.
So yeah. So there's these whole big cyclical, and on that then there's like To the World, and so I was obviously in a real, sometimes there's seasons for like lots of international travel. And other times it's like some stuff here, and then lots of when I say international, that's outside of US as well, by the way. And so that's like that's a song that was written in one of those moments, where it's like you're bouncing between other different countries, and it's like, okay, to the world, Lord, let's do this. So those songs just chart the journey of your life, kind of like the whole way through, and it's fascinating looking back, and just seeing the adventure wrapped up in the middle of it.
Your latest project is titled Jericho. Can you tell me more about why you came up with this theme for your project?
And we all have big, scary Jerichos. We all have these things that can be in front of us. But for Joshua, there was always a promise. There was always, I've given you the city, now here's what you got to do. And you walk around the walls. And we're all on this adventure of lapping our Jerichos. And I don't know where you are on your journey. I don't even know where I am in my own journey in the middle of all of this. But when we walk around, we walk in a greater sense of peace and rest, knowing that ultimately we're getting closer to breakthrough. We're going to see something, you know what I mean? And but in the big scheme of it all, the first line says, to all our questions there will be an answer, because one day we're just going to stand before the Lord, and it's just going to be an incredible moment.
It's so important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Aaron, for being on the show and for spending this time with us.
I don't sweat.
And we need to go on an adventure. We do.
Absolutely. And then we'll just we'll make like a mini docu-series.
There we go.
Of adventure, and then we obviously got to bring the word into it, and we can. And
that's pretty easy when you get to explore, God's country with being in the mountains or being on the water, boating, and or ice climbing, or
when you're wrapping in over I did one in Ouray, Colorado. It was a solid 45 meter class 5 waterfall, right? I got to the bottom of this thing and I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to climb out of this. See, when you're halfway up that thing, your prayer life goes through the roof. Let me tell you, your conversations with the Lord are unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Ice climbing every time, I think, is, for me, it's the most adrenaline rush, for sure.
I see your skis in the background. I just learned to ski. I love going as fast as I can. 61 miles an hour is the fastest I've gone.
It's awesome.
That's it. I can barely stop though, but it's brilliant. Great crack.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for sharing your story and for being such a great witness. I look forward to hearing more of your songs, more about your adventures, and I hope that someday we can go on an adventure together. For more information on Aaron Boyd's music, as well as his ministry, go to aaronboydmusic.com. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to my channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and be sure to share. We all have a story to share like Aaron, and I hope that this inspires you to go share your story. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.